biggest buzz getter was the Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
From Obsidian. This is exciting. This is the Fallout New Vegas team, in theory, right? It's been a few years. I'm sure it's rotated a fair amount, but
Right.
Obsidian making a new first-person RPG.
The original creators of Fallout
Yeah.
are actually, like the original Fallout are actually working on
So
this.
Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, but the point I was confused about, are they contracted? Are they hired full-time by
No,
Obsidian?
they work at Obsidian.
They
now.
work at Obsidian.
So they worked at Interplay back in the day, worked on the first two Fallouts, then went and worked on a bunch of other games, and now they've come back to Obsidian to work on.
Got
So they
it.
didn't work on New Vegas. I'm sure there are other people on the team that did,
Yeah.
but they did not. But they know Fallout very well. They know RPGs fairly well.
Yeah, and so you actually went to Obsidian to see this game.
Yeah.
Do you want to walk us through that? What was that like?
Well, I got on a plane. I flew
Okay,
out. Ha
buddy.
ha ha. And then they showed us the demo of the game. They walked us through a tour of the studio. I interviewed like Tim and Leonard and a bunch of other team members. We saw about, I want to say 45 minutes of the game. A
Okay.
pretty good chunk. We put only part of it up on the new gameplay today where we cut through it.
Yeah,
I
we
saw-
don't have the rest of that footage. Just to be clear, we're not holding
Oh,
anything
yeah,
back.
yeah.
Here's everything we had.
We saw more than that. They just
Right.
didn't give that all to us.
Yeah.
But I think it looks cool. Like it's a sci-fi adventure. It definitely looks mechanically a bit like Fallout. Just like I don't know if it's the same tech, but it looks like it could be the same
Well,
tech.
it can't be because it's not Bethesda's engine.
that's a
it's them
Bethesda
using
engine.
Unreal. But it's crazy that
but it's crazy how much it looks like that.
to make Unreal and Obsidian in the year 2018 or 2019 when this game comes out, like kind of like, oh, let's make it look like Bethesda's engine would around like 2007-ish. You know what I mean? It's just a bizarre kind
It
of
looks
callback.
Visually more polished than that,
Oh,
I'll say.
absolutely. But
Yeah.
even like going into the conversations, I know this isn't necessarily an engine thing, but yeah, having the camera like lock on,
Right.
which feels antiquated, but I think that community, they're so hungry for another experience
Oh,
like
yeah.
that they're just eating it up.
Yeah. So it's got that Fallout vibe, but then it also has a bit of Mass Effect in that you have your own ship and you're flying around this this whole solar system.
Like physically, like you were in Mass Effect as well, like actually piloting the ship around.
We didn't get to see the movement between places, but
Yeah.
you can touch down on different places. There's two big worlds that you explore, but then they said there's other places like moons and space stations and other places that you'll settle down as well. So you're
Yeah.
exploring the whole solar system. Yeah, and it sounds cool. Like it's very humor driven because those guys like humor. They like really dark, like weird humor. There's a place where we were wandering by a station called Antibiotics, but it was spelled anti, like your
Auntie.
Aw.
Yeah, auntie.
Better way to
Antibiotics.
pronounce that for the
There you
joke.
go.
Yeah.
Or there was another one that there was a secret base and it was like written in neon. There's the doors. Like, all right, this is the door to the secret base.
Sincere question though.
Yeah.
Do you think it was funny?
I wasn't losing my mind over it, but
Uh-huh.
I appreciated some of the humor.
It's
They had to
scary.
ask Reeves to leave because he was laughing so loud.
I think this game looks very promising. I think it's super cool. There's a part of me that it's like, ooh, boy, you have so much goodwill going for you here. Like, if those jokes aren't landing in the entire game, you're just kind of like, okay, all right, comedy-wise, that's a death blow.
Well, the one thing that I liked was you can play the whole game as a dumb guy. So like the character, sometimes you'll like it'll say like aggressive or like, it'll have like this is the type of line you're doing.
Type of response,
It's
yeah.
labeled dumb on the drop down menu. And so you can pick your dumb response. And so you'll play the dumbest character.
Is there a point to that?
They just think it's funny.
Okay, it's weird too because like in the new game for the day, you can see it. Like one of the characters like cuts you off, like, the commander over here is a little simple, but here's what they're trying to say. You
Right.
know, that's an interesting idea. Like I like the idea too of like mixing it in. Like sometimes your character can be dumb because like, are you just gonna be locking in for just a dumb playthrough all the way?
Yeah, and the one thing that I hadn't seen either is just their perk system and the leveling up system. So that's kind of a question mark at this point.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different ways to approach combat. So you can use guns or you can use melee weapons. You can stealth through stuff. You can just like buff out your companions and have them do everything.
Something I was confused about is when they were talking about the fear system. It sounds like a reverse nemesis system. Can you explain how this works in the game?
Yeah, I could maybe see a little bit where you're going. So there's a fear system. You can pick like, they said 3 on normal.
Okay.
3 fears. So say you like end up lighting yourself on fire or something. You end up like getting hurt by fire. The game will present you with a prompt like, hey, do you want to have the fear of fire? And so
Why would you say yes?
Well, you'd say yes, and then that would debuff you, so you get hurt more by fire attacks. But
Right.
you might want that because it would add a new perk. Like you would get a perk to add to something else, so you could buff yourself out in another area. It's just kind of like an interesting. Like they thought about it as like Hero of a Thousand Faces, or like those like legendary like stories of myth. Like heroes are more interesting when they're flawed.
Joseph Campbell's big into debuffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, if heroes are more interesting when they're flawed, like this is a way to sort of like add that into an RPG.
But it depends on like the gameplay. Like if I fall off a cliff accidentally playing the game, then they're gonna say like, "Hey, are
might
you
be-
scared of heights?"
Yeah, exactly. Or like a
such a
certain
weird
type of
idea.
enemy, like if you get attacked by a dinosaur or something, like it might be like maybe you're scared of dinosaurs, and so you would get hurt more by their attacks.
But I assume every player is gonna get attacked by dinosaurs. Like that's the weird thing.
Well, it's an opt-in system, so you can say like, no, I don't want that fear.
Okay.
You can say I don't want any fears and not do that. So it's an optional thing.
Right.
I think it's kind of cool, just as a weirdo thing. So I probably will try it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having fears.
I think we're all really into the idea of
I
being
really
scared
want
of
to try
everything.
this out. Like, what is it to be afraid?
So it's coming out 2019 to PS4, Xbox One, and PC. But
That's
the
right.
interesting thing is obviously Obsidian is now owned by Microsoft. But if
Mm-hmm.
you remember when Microsoft purchased Obsidian, Take-Two, who's publishing this game, was big on like, hey, no interference here. It's not going to affect our mystery project. Now we know the mystery project to
Right.
be Outer Worlds. But I have to imagine this was part of the reason that Microsoft wanted to buy them, right? It's just seeing they're like, oh, they can actually still make a game that looks kind of like a Fallout New Vegas
They can
in
make
case we
games.
want to push them that direction.
Sure.
Right?
And I'm sure, I mean, even when we were at the studio, there was an area that we could not go into. They're like, yeah, we got a project in here you can't see. So they're still working. They're working on another big thing already.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm sure it's for Microsoft.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Any other takeaways from that trip we should know? Hot scoops?
No hot scoops.
Oh, you
Game
did.
looks good.
You told me in the new gameplay today that you asked if you can F your companions, which
Oh,
I
that is a good one.
I'm sad to say is a very important detail. But can you F your companions?
You cannot. You'll have to F your friends, I guess.
Fear of intimacy.
Very cool. All right. Hey, Game Awards, hell of a show, right?
Hell of a show.
Yeah.
Flawless.
Sweet. Do all you guys want to clap out? Bye. That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.